Hello, and welcome to my first online literacy lesson. If at any point during this video you don't understand, feel free to pause it or rewind just to give yourself a little bit of thinking time. Today we're going to start off with a quick grammar activity. So, in the three sentences I've got on my board, some of them might need a full stop or some of them might need a question mark. Have a think about why question marks and full stops are used. Let's look at the first sentence together. It says, there is a pony in the field. Would that need a question mark or would that need a full stop? The second one says, are we going swimming? Would that need a question mark or would that need a full stop? And the last one says, have you seen my hat and gloves? Would that need a full stop or would it need a question mark? So the first sentence says, there is a pony in the field. Is that telling you information or is it asking something? That's right, it's telling you something, which means that it needs a full stop. Well done if you got that right. The second one says, are we going swimming? That is a question, so it needs a question mark. And the last one, have you seen my hat and gloves? Again, that's asking for information, so that's going to need a question mark as well. Well done if you got those right. We're going to look at some more grammar questions. Here, we've got one to do with word types. So the sentence says, circle the noun in the sentence below. And that sentence is, the shoes were shiny. Have a think which one of those words in that sentence is a noun. Do you remember what the job of a noun is? A noun is a name of a person, a place or a thing. So in that sentence, the noun is shoes. The word shiny would be an adjective because that's describing those shoes. Well done if you got that right. Today, we're going to see if we can use some descriptive language. So, to be successful in today's lesson, we're first of all going to see if we can explain what adjectives, verbs and adverbs are. If you can do that, we're going to see if we can identify some different forms of descriptive language. So I'm going to read some sentences to you and we're going to see if we can find those descriptive language in the passage. The next one says, I can confidently use adjectives to describe nouns. So once you understand what they are, it's actually using them to describe things. And we're going to see if we can confidently use verbs and adverbs to describe actions, describe what is happening in a picture. So we need to make sure we know what those three things are. What are adjectives? What are verbs? What are adverbs? Pause the video now and have a think. So adjectives describe things, they describe the nouns. So the job of them is to give a little bit more detail about it. So for example, if I was talking about a chair, I might say tall chair. Tall would be an adjective. Verbs. Verbs are actions, they're doing words. So for example, I could be standing or sitting or singing. All of those would be verbs because they're explaining an action. Adverbs. Adverbs describe how those things are done. So standing would be the verb, standing quickly, quickly would be the adverb because it's describing how to do that thing. So we're going to look at a passage together now and we're going to see if we can find some really lovely descriptive language. Have a read along with me. Beneath the silvery white moon, the quiet mine ruin stood strong. Made from sturdy blocks of grey stone, it looked beautiful and majestic. The tower was surrounded by an entire jungle of greenery, which waved gently in the wind, while birds chirped quietly in the distance, trying to get their babies to sleep. So all of that writing there is describing the picture on the left-hand side. I'd like to pause the video now. I'd like to see if you can find some of the adjectives, some of the verbs, and some of the adverbs that are describing in this passage. Pause the video now, have a look, and we'll discuss some of them in a moment. Okay, so the adjectives, we're looking for words which are describing things. So I'll show you some examples that I've found in the passage. Silvery and white, they're describing the moon. The moon is an object, so silvery and white would be adjectives to describe that moon. Sturdy, sturdy means strong, really built strong. So sturdy blocks of grey stone, and also grey. Any colour words will be describing objects, so they'll be adjectives as well. Beautiful and majestic. If you don't know what any of those words mean, feel free to look them up in a dictionary. The tower was surrounded by an entire jungle of greenery which waved gently in the wind, while birds chirped quietly in the distance, trying to get their babies to sleep. Now in that passage there's not many adjectives, but there are verbs and there are adverbs to explain what's happening. So surrounded would be a verb because that's what's happening. They've been surrounded. Waved. Waved is describing the action of moving around. And gently would be an adverb because that's going to describe how it's waving. Chirping, so chirped would be a verb because that's what the birds are doing. And quietly describes how those birds are doing it. So in this passage we've used quite a lot of adjectives, quite a lot of verbs and quite a lot of adverbs to describe the picture. What I'd like you to do today is see if you can describe the picture using some really interesting adjectives, verbs and adverbs. So describe what you can see, what you might be able to hear or smell. Use your senses to describe what's actually in the picture. And then you could think about using verbs and adverbs to describe the actions in those pictures. Once you've described the picture out loud, I'd like to see if you can try and write some of the ideas down using your neatest handwriting. If you think that some of your work is really good, then you can feel free to email it to me so I can take a look. The words you have to remember to use: adjectives, verbs and adverbs. It might be an idea to pause the video to have a look at that screen to make sure you know what your task is. And this is the picture that I'd like you to describe. In this picture, it looks like the Mexican people are having a bit of a fiesta in the street. It does look quite empty, but you can see this lady's wearing a beautiful dress, and you can see that this man is standing there in his traditional poncho and sombrero, and all around is very colourful. So straight away I've given you some adjectives. I've said beautiful and I've said colourful, so I've used some descriptive language. I wonder how you would describe that picture. Once you've described that picture out loud, have a go at writing some sentences to explain what the picture is about. So you can describe what you can see, what you might be able to hear, and describe some of the actions that the characters are doing. Maybe you can look at those people over there, see what they're doing. Maybe you can think about what sounds you might be able to hear in the distance. Maybe you can think about the smells you could see on that table, or the smells of the wonderful food. How could you describe that? At the end of your lesson, it'd be a really good idea for you to self-assess to work out how well you've done in today's lesson. So today, our objective was to use descriptive language. How good was your presentation when you wrote it down? Do you think you deserve 1, 2 or 3 ticks for your presentation? How much effort have you put in? Have you tried really hard with your sentences? Could you have put a bit more effort into the vocabulary you've used? Maybe you deserve 2 ticks, or possibly you have worked hard enough to earn 3 ticks. And have a think about what you would think your next step would be. How could you make your writing even better next time? Before we end the lesson today, I'd like to take a look at the writing that you've done. Do any of the words that you've used describe where things are needed to be in the picture? Have you described the place of where they are? And if you have done that, then those words are called prepositions. They describe the position that something should be in. Words like under, next, next to, on top of, beneath, below and above. All of those words are prepositions because they describe the place that something is. If you've used some in your writing, could you underline them for me? If you haven't used any, maybe you could write one more sentence to show me how you can use a preposition. Well done today on your lesson. Hopefully you've done some really good descriptive writing and hopefully you're really impressed with what you do. We're going to do some more writing tomorrow using description, but we're going to do a little bit of slow writing together. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's lesson and you found it very useful, and then tomorrow we can build on that to make sure you're using really exciting vocabulary in your writing. If you need any help at all, please feel free to get your parents to email the office and they can give you some information about how to contact me. Good luck everyone, and remember to stay safe.